Hello, beloveds. This is Reverend Jerry Hobby, and I am so excited and happy to be with you today. And the reason I'm happy to be with you is we are celebrating in a wonderful way. We get an opportunity to see how spiritual practices and technology works hand in hand this week. I have had such a wonderful week, and I've had an opportunity to be in spiritual practice to explore many different concepts and many different ideas. For example, omnipresence, being omnipotent, experiencing the presence of God everywhere in every particular way. And I want to just share one thing that stands out the most for me. It is all about being present in the moment. So, right now, I am fully present with you, with my talk and my sharing, the wisdom and the inspiration of spirit. And I'm also in the air and I'm traveling safely home so that I can show up the rest of the week in being a beneficial presence in the world. Now, today we're focusing on love. Our theme for the month is loving out loud. And as we love out loud, it is important for us to consider love from many different perspectives. Last week, the focus was loving ourselves. This week, it is exploring and looking at the spectrum of love as well as the kaleidoscope of love. And so I thought we'd start off with an anchored reading. And this anchored reading comes from Howard Thurman. It's one of my favorite readings. It is entitled More Loving in My Heart. And Howard Thurman writes, I want to be more loving in my heart. I want to be more loving. Often there are good and sufficient reasons for exercising what seems a clean, direct resentment. Again and again, I find it hard to hold in check the sharp retort, the biting comeback, when it seems that someone has done violence to my self-respect and decent regard. How natural it seems to give as good as I get, to take nothing lying down, to announce to all and sundry in 1,000 ways that no one can run over me and get away with it. All this is part of the thicket in which my heart gets caught again and again. Deep within me, I want to be more loving in my heart, to glow with a warmth that will take the chill off a room, which I share with those whose lives come or touch mine in the traffics of my goings and my coming. I want to be more loving. I want to be more loving in my heart. It is often easy to have the idea in mind, to plan to be more loving, to see it with the mind, and give assent to the thought of being loving. This is crystal clear. But what I want to be is more loving in my heart. I must feel like loving. I must ease the tension in my heart that ejects the sharp barb, the stinging words. I want to be more loving in my heart. That with unconscious awareness and deliberate intent, I shall be kind, a gracious human being. Thus, those who walk the path with me may find it easier to be loving, to be gracious, because of the love of God, which is increasingly expressed in my living. I want to be more loving in my heart. I just want you to breathe that in right now. And as we're breathing it in, I just want you to pay attention to the process in terms of where we're at, where we started, and where we've come to. Oftentimes, we forget the beauty and the power of love. And part of the reason we forget is we live from the world outside as opposed to living from the world inside. This past week has been quite a week for me. I've had many opportunities to be present with people, and I've had opportunities to see them living in hyperdrive. And sometimes they're going so fast, they don't even hear what it is they're saying. And as we hear they're going so fast and you don't hear what you're saying, sometimes there's a sharp retort, and maybe perhaps people are so absent-minded in terms of the barb that they've thrown in the heart of someone else, the pain that they establish within that individual. And yet then there are situations where there are people longing for love, lurking in the shadows, feeling forgotten, feeling disregarded, disrespected, and it shows up in so many ways. We're having a heart-to-heart conversation right now. So when we learn to live from the place of love, and when we learn how to be more loving in our heart, the world can change and transform itself. I often say people love, and I truly believe people love, but often we forget how to be loving. And that process of being loving is part of the expression of life, the beauty of life. It is the expression of harmony. It is the expression of peace. It is the expression of healing. And that healing is an important part in our lives. If you were to ask every person on this planet what they valued most, most would say that love was an important part of their experience and that it was what they valued most and it is what they desired the most. That love can show up in so many ways. If we are seeking the expression of wholeness, then love is an important part of it. That love is an important part of our lives in terms of the work we do in the world. Feeling and expressing and feeling appreciated is an important part of the process. Not only feeling appreciated, but also to receive from a place of love is an important part of our process. And just to be honored for who we are, to move past appearances, past judgments, and just knowing that we are accepted is an important part. So when we talk about the expression of God, we talk about the expression of love, we get to recognize that. Maya Angelou says, love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at the destination full of hope. People are looking for more hope in the world. And where is that hope to come from? It is to come from us. And if we can learn how to be more loving, if we can practice that vibrational energy and allow love to expand itself in our lives, the world will be a greater place. Now, we have a lot of people that are living lives, and I feel like, I'm just going to say, I feel like we are in the best time of our lives right now. To be at this point in the world with everything that is going on, and I think about all the things, the controversy going on around here, this discussion about who we are, this discussion about all the different things that we encounter, from our sexual orientation to our race and all the different things. But it all boils down to one thing. And that one thing is that love is always present, and love is in the center of it all. It also is a time where we get an opportunity to see the presence of love in action, in its variety, and in its expression. Now, some people get hung up on love and what love looks like, and they're so focused on that love and what it should look like, as opposed to allowing love to flow and love to grow and fulfill itself within each and every one of us. And so we get to be and show up in the world and to be an expression of this authentic expression. Now, what does love do? Love can go into places we in our human experience are unable to go. Love can fill the world, and it can lift us up. It can bless us beyond that which we cannot even imagine. Now, in order for that to happen, the important part for us to learn is that we are all perfect expressions of light, that we've all been brought here to express life. And the more that we express life, the universe will give us more and more opportunities to experience the beauty of that life and its diversity and its richness in many, many different ways. And part of that process is being able to allow for it to express itself with purpose and with intention. And what we get to also remember is that God is all there is, and that there are never, ever any mistakes in God. And when we learn that there are never any mistakes in God, then we can allow love to expand itself. And we can learn that even when we're going through the toughest of times, and I want us to hear this, the toughest of time, there the presence of love is, and that love will shine brightly. And it is love that will carry us through the things that we're experiencing. Often we cultivate fear in our lives, and that fear shows up in so many ways, in unhealthy ways. And what happens is, in that fear, we begin to deprecate. We practice self-deprecation. We don't love ourselves. We do a lot of putting down. And we also discourage and put a damper on people's lives, the ones we love the most. So I want us to be very mindful of who we are and how we're growing. And if we can allow for love to be our practice daily, and if we can allow love to be our go-to on a daily basis, what we will find is that love will find a place and a space to move and do its work, and it will support us in our growth. Often I encourage people when they come to me and they're concerned about the challenges that they're facing, is that if we just continue to amplify and live from the place of love, love will support us, and we will move through this entire process. And if there was a special smell for me for love, it would be the smell of a rose. We come out smelling like a rose. Now, in order for that to happen, we've got to be open. We've got to be receptive to love. And we've got to be willing to allow for love to express itself in its own way, in its uniqueness. And in that uniqueness, what we're going to find is there's going to be a kaleidoscope. The beauty of love will show up in a wonderful way. And it is going to show up on many spectrums. This is all a part of the spectrum of light. When we think about colors, we have the spectrum of colors. I'm wearing a spectrum of color right now. If you'll notice, I have a green on, and that green is represented in a varied way. This is part of the spectrum of life. The more that we honor life and its beauty, and its creeps and its crevices, when we acknowledge it as the essence in the darkness, in the brightness, in the lightness, in the mutedness, in the in between, what we will find is that we are blessed beyond that which we cannot even imagine. Now, you may be saying, Reverend Jerry, these are just words, but these words are very powerful. And these words are words that can move us. These are words that can support us in moving mountains. It can support us in demonstrating the gift of life and the beauty of life. I want you to know, and this is the most important part of this whole process, is remembering that we all matter. Many people have experienced so much trauma in their lives. And we don't even know sometimes what we're doing in terms of how we're interacting with each other and the trauma that we bring behind it. One of my favorite stories is the Spark story that was brought to me many years ago by a wonderful lady. Her name is Elise Bridges. She's now called Grandmama Spark. And she was the one who brought the blue ribbon. Who you are makes a difference. The most important thing for us to remember is that we are loved. And there is the story where she tells the story about how this teacher decided to honor every single student in the school, in the classroom. And when the students were honored, each student was given ribbons. And they took these ribbons and they were asked to give them away to people who had made a difference in their lives. One young man went, he was training and being mentored by this executive. And he went to honor this executive and thanked him for being a wonderful blessing in his life. And that executive was really moved, and he was given a ribbon. And he says, I'd like for you to pass this on to someone that makes a difference in your life. Well, this executive went home and he went to his son's room to have a conversation with his son. And he started to tell his son how much he loved him, how much he appreciated him, and how much that son made a difference in his life, and how that son supported him in being and showing up and being this light and beneficial presence in the world. And then he told his son, I'd like to place this ribbon on you because you truly do make a difference and you have been a blessing in my life. He put that ribbon on his son, and his son began to cry. And the father wanted to know what was going on and why was he crying. And he says, Dad, I'm so glad that you shared your thoughts with me. You don't know. Sometimes it is hard for me. I was planning on committing suicide tomorrow. I want you to breathe that in. And the reason I'm asking you to breathe it in is because love is an important part. And it is important for us to love out loud. Sometimes we say things and those things, we think they're really cute. I was traveling the other week and the young lady, the stewardess, she was so sweet and charming. And then she said something at the end, and it was some little quip like, oh, and if you didn't like going with us, well, oh, well, one of those things. But sometimes in our cutesiness, we can be very hurtful and we can be very painful. So it is important for us to be mindful and live in the light of love. It is important for us to be mindful and be more loving, even in terms of how we joke around with each other. It is important for us to be more loving, even when we're in our place of disagreement. The last thing I want to share with you regarding this process of love is, to be loving does not call for you to always be in agreement. But the most important thing in that process is to remember to echo that value for each other and to echo how you love and you appreciate each other. I don't always agree with the people that I love. The people I love the most, Larry Hobby, I don't always agree with him, but I can stand in a place of love and I can honor him in the place of love. I can stand in the place of love with every single one of you and anchor in that love. So I would like to offer a perspective. Sometimes people say things, and instead of moving into the place, maybe sometimes it's about being still and just being present, being mindful of the words you choose and how you respond. That can make a difference and allow spirit to move into the place and to speak its truth through you. When we learn how to step into a place and to allow spirit to speak its truth in its space of love, I believe that what we will find is that the stresses of life will disappear and that the infinite will move into those places, easing and creating more peace and harmony. More and more people are experiencing stress in their lives, and that stress is showing up in their bodies. And as it shows up in their bodies, what happens is it fulfills itself with a lot of dis-ease. We have our bellies reflected. It shows up with inflammation, and it creates more stress and strain on our whole lives. So when we come from that place of love, we open the space for more good. Thich Nhat Hanh says, true love is made of 4 elements: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. My challenge for you this week is to practice and be more loving in your heart, to practice more compassion, to live from a place of joy and equanimity. But the most important part of that process is to anchor from a place of authenticity and to live from that place of the heart. Ernest Holmes reminds us that spirit is all life, truth, love, being cause and effect, and it is only power in the universe that knows itself. So right here, right now, I'm inviting you to be that space and that action of love. And as you do that, I know that your lives are going to change. And I'm inviting you to come back and share with us how the power of love has changed and transformed your lives. So with that in mind right now, I'm going to invite you now to take a moment, and we're going to invite you to take a moment and listen to this song that we've chosen for you. It is focused on love, and it reminds you that there is only love. It comes from Michael Gott, and I hope you enjoy it. I'll be back with the prayer.